everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer. Throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olson and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
And Dr. Cole, we have quite the story to get to, which I've never heard this story before. I read the article, the write-up, and wow, it really makes me, I'm glad I didn't start that cult we talked about.
You think it would have ended up like this?
I thought about starting a cult. And then if it wouldn't have been for, haircuts and robes, because you don't think about the expenditure, the startup money when you want to start a cult. Those robes are expensive. So are the haircuts, by the way.
Well, not if you hire Mrs. Giesinger. I think she's out of a job.
Well, probably. But this time when I was thinking about doing it, Great Clips is my only option. At $10 a haircut, it's pretty cost prohibitive, to get a lot of members.
Agreed.
So anyhow, I'll step aside and let Eric do a quick intro. I know he's got one.
Well, I do. And yes, this is an amazing tale, and more maybe than any other story we've done so far in this manner, where Clarissa writes up the case on her own site, which is a criminal code. You guys got to check that out, criminalcode.com. Maybe more than any other, her actual article you really have to see it. It is great in terms of the detail. This is an amazing story. I happen to know it. I didn't know the details, but I knew it just because I'm old enough. It was a big deal in the 90s when this happened. I mean, they didn't know what was going on in Japan. I mean, all of a sudden, all these attacks. So anyway, excellent article. You should go to the Criminal Code, read the whole thing, and of course, we'll be talking about it tonight right here on the show. When Japanese pharmacist Chizuo Matsumoto cobbled together Buddhist, Hindu, and Christian precepts into Om Shinrikyo in the mid-'80s, no one could have imagined that his yoga and meditation class would evolve into a murderous death cult some 20,000 strong that would threaten the very fabric of Japanese society for a time. Our very own Dr. Clarissa Cole leads us through the engrossing but cautionary tale. Whip it on us.
Yeah, it is terrifying. And I think that a lot of people don't know the story now in the U.S. because it has been a number of years and it goes away quickly. It was in a foreign land, and I think people don't pay enough attention to world events. Mm-hmm. But this happened. It all began in 1984, where in Japan they started a yoga and a meditation class. The pharmacist Chizuo Matsumoto, and he called it Aim Shinriko, which means Mountain Hermit Society, basically. Yeah. Wow. He founded the group with a mixture of all these different beliefs, right? So Indian, Tibetan, some Christian, Hindu, and the most prominent was an identification with the god Shiva in Hindu religion, and Shiva is the destroyer or the transformer.
Yep.
And it began simply as yoga, but the Aum Shinriko group quickly evolved to include the belief that Armageddon was fast approaching in the form of a world war, that non-members would be doomed to hell. And the world war they thought was going to take place between the U.S. and Japan. Oh. So, yeah, my guess is that their ultimate plans may have involved the U.S. at some point.
I don't recall us at that point. I don't mean to interrupt you at all, but I don't recall us having any real skirmishes with Japan at that point in time.
Oh, not at that point.
Oh, no.
Because they were actually our allies at that point.
True. Which is, when you really think about it, is almost kind of crazy, because you think about the two nuclear bombs we dropped, on Japan. But
we did more mutual damage than almost any other societies. But I studied all this because I went on I needed 2 more credits to graduate from college. And this trip was offered to go a multidiscipline trip 6-week trip to Japan after my senior year of college. It was an amazing experience. So we cruised all over Japan. We were in Tokyo maybe half the time, but we went many, many other cities, all up and down. I think we hit all the main islands. Mm-hmm. It was really quite an astonishing trip. And remember, that's 1979. So this is before any of this even happened. And that's much closer. That's only 35 years after the end of World War II. So it just shows you that when societies, if you can accept blame, which they did, they accepted blame. They're a very shame-based society. Yes. So they were shamed. They accepted blame. Once you do that in that kind of society, you don't blame your adversary. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So because we, I shouldn't say that because we did the same in Europe. We were pretty enlightened about the way we handled the post-war. And in other words, we helped them rebuild. And we were good to them. And MacArthur, did a good job. And we were smart because, we saw them for what they were, future allies and especially trading partners. So the fact that you had this very, very, most people there, at least at that time, and then I went once again in the late 80s when we were heading over to the Seoul Olympics. We stopped in Japan. We were there a while, nothing like the 6 weeks. We were there probably a couple weeks. So that was another amazing trip. I didn't notice any difference in the attitude. They really didn't blame Americans, and they didn't think it was our fault. If you had a conversation, they'd come around to, we bombed Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're well aware of their past, and it's kind of interesting, the way it has come together. But because it's almost ironic, it's counterintuitive, because there's such a shame-based society. Mm-hmm. If their actions turn out to have been improper, shall we say, which they probably were, then they will accept full responsibility and not blame, their adversaries. So that's how we were able to have this kind of relationship with them. And it happened very quickly. It was almost immediately after the war, because A, they accepted responsibility. And broadly speaking, obviously not every individual, but as a society they did. And B, we handled the rebuild pretty well. We were pretty magnanimous about it. So I think that combination, and the same similarly with Europe, the Marshall Plan and all that. We realized, hey, we can't exist solo in the world. We need a world to work within. So let's help these people rebuild. And, for the most part, it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, we were on very good terms with them at this time on the whole, but for some reason, Matsumoto, who was the founder of this cult, did not believe that. He was very certain that when Armageddon came, that it was going to be started, essentially. It would be a world war, but it would be started between the U.S. and Japan. And so he basically said, hey, Armageddon's coming, and all non-members of the Aum Shinrikyo cult were going to be doomed to hell. However, these non-believers can be saved if they are killed by Aum Shinrikyo members.
Oh, wow.
Correct.
That's a little strange and
That's
extreme.
weird.
Yeah, that's really weird.
It's awful, and so I mean these beliefs were essentially very cult-like at this point.
Yeah.
But Japanese officials really refused to see them as a threat at that time. There were only, you have to remember too, there were only like 20 members at this point, and none of them had a history of violence. In fact, a lot of them had a background in science. They were educated people with no history of violence, and it was founded in religious beliefs. So eventually, they granted Shinrikyo official religious corporation status.
Wow, even though it was in essence a hate group.
Exactly. And the status upgrade allowed for tax breaks, but the big thing was that there was a total exemption from any government oversight.
Wow. Oh, so they could preach whatever they wanted, they could do whatever they wanted to do to get
whatever
members.
They want to do.
Okay.
Yeah, the government's not going to butt in. And so this put the plans into overdrive, and Matsumoto, he changed his name to Shoko Asahara. He went big time into recruitment mode. So it's funny, like you read accounts of like Japanese young people at that time. Yeah. They said that like during what's the equivalent of our sort of Saturday morning cartoons, right? So programming for children. They would see Shoko Asahara in ads all the time.
Oh, man.
It was like during those spots in particular where he talked about the Aum Shinrikyo group, and nobody thought he was a threat at all. They just saw him as like this round little yoga guru that had a pleasant face. I mean, nobody thought anything of it.
Disturbing.
Isn't it? For like years.
Yeah,
So he was recruiting.
Yeah, impressionable children. They're watching Saturday morning cartoons, and that's the one time they're glued to the screen. Is during cartoons, really. Where their undivided attention. That's some shady stuff.
And the thing is too, like what older adults didn't really realize is that in Japan the possibility, like how in America we have the American dream and everyone can become president.
Yeah,
clearly.
Clearly.
That's what we believe. Sorry,
I caught that.
That's what we believe here, and in Japan, it's not really like that. A lot depends on the family that you come from.
Sure.
How.
Yeah, they don't have an emperor anymore.
And so I think that there are a lot of youth. No, they don't. They have a parliament, but you can only go so high. And so I think there are a lot of male children, especially, that are kind of stuck in this echelon where you can go so high but no higher.
Okay.
And Aum Shinrikyo promised that you could realize your full potential.
Sounds good. I mean, on paper until the killing started.
A little Scientology, like if you ask me.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Might as well get a jab in at the president and Scientology. So, by 1992, so they had 20 members. They had upwards of 20,000 members by 1992.
Whoa! They exploded in size.
Yeah. And of course, Asahara was really good about getting people with money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to get the people the money. Otherwise, how do you get your Scientology? I mean, your thing off the ground.
Right, and the robes and the haircut.
Exactly. You got to figure robes $20, haircuts another 10. You're 30 into it. Take that by 20,000 times. That's a lot of money.
Exactly, and so nobody. But at this point, even though there are kind of these extreme beliefs, people are thinking, well, no real violence has happened. But that wasn't really true. It came out later that a member, Teruyuki Majima, had